So you've passed every exam, you volunteered in various hospitals across Canada, you've cared for patients, you have worked excellently, you've built your life even in Ontario, right? You work here and you call Ontario home, your family is with you. And then all of a sudden you hear this announcement that you can't apply for Ontario's first round of residency applications. And this is not because you failed an exam or because your degree is invalid, but the reason is because you didn't attend school in Ontario, and I mean high school in Ontario. This is the news which a lot of IMGs are grappling with as at today. And this news has shaken hundreds of internationally trained doctors. But before you lose any hope, I need you to stay with me because this isn't the end of your journey. I really want you to understand that it may just be the beginning of a bigger conversation that we are about to have in Canada, right? And so here's what has actually changed. And let's be very, very clear in what the conversation is really about. And the conversation is that the province of Ontario has introduced the new eligibility rule for internationally trained medical graduates who are applying for the CAMS March in 2026. That is the R1. That's the first iteration match, right? That is what the news is about. And for you to apply for the Ontario's IMG designated positions for the first iteration, the new rule is that you as a candidate must have attended an Ontario high school for at least 2 years. And that is for those whose parent or guardian was posted abroad with the Canadian Armed Forces, Diplomatic Service, or Global Affairs Canada. And according to the CAMS website, in relation to this particular announcement, applicants must complete an international medical graduate attestation form and provide proof of Ontario high school attendance in order for IMGs who want to apply for the first round of matching so far as CAMS is concerned. Now, if you don't meet this requirement, you are not eligible for the first iteration, and this is very crucial, you are still eligible for the second iteration. You can still apply to the Ontario residencies. The only thing is that you can't apply for the first round of matching. And this applies only to Ontario, not the other provinces like British Columbia or Saskatchewan or any other province, okay? So while this looks like a setback, and it's a setback for many people, it's not a disqualification. You are still in the race to getting your residency in Canada. Now, what are the various medical bodies and the various associations saying? Because you realize that across Canada, leading medical organizations are raising voices about what is going on. This is not to argue per se, but rather it's a call for fairness about what should be done for international medical graduates for the first round of matching in Canada, especially in Ontario. So, for example, the Canadian Medical Association and the College of Family Physicians of Canada on October 15th, 2025, they both urged Ontario to reevaluate this particular position the province had taken. And this is what they wrote, that at a time when every effort is being made to attract more family physicians, the abrupt policy change for IMGs will destabilize family medicine programs in Ontario, and the government is urged to postpone this ill-timed policy. Now, they reminded all of us that over 6.5 million Canadians lack a family physician, and that removing barriers and not building barriers should rather be our focus. And their closing appeal was very clear. They stated that we call on the Ontario government to reassess these restrictive measures until further consultation can take place and unintended consequences can be evaluated. The Ontario Medical Association also echoed the same concern. One of the leaders, Dr. Zainab, had told CBC Radio that having the rules change right when you are trying to submit your documents is really throwing applicants off, right? Because before this rule, about 1,200 IMGs were eligible for Ontario's first round of matching. Now, that number may fall from 1,200 IMGs to 170 IMGs. And she added that, unfortunately, this approach may be undoing what we've worked so hard to improve. Ontario has for a long time been a beacon for diversity in medicine, and many hope that it stays that way. So what's the clarification? Because CAMS confirmed that Ontario is currently the only province with a high school eligibility rule. So I really want you to appreciate the fact that it applies to Ontario only, not any other province. So other provinces like Nova Scotia, New Brunswick require IMGs to show a connection to the province, not where they went to high school. Okay, so we need to really get that very well. Now, the Ontario Ministry of Health response, and this was from a spokesperson of the Ontario Ministry of Health, said that the policy aims to support residents educated within the province while building a healthcare force that connects every corner of Ontario to convenient care. So you realize that the goal for this particular rule is retention, and the goal is very valid. But as the Ontario Medical Association has reminded us, IMGs who train in Ontario already signed a 5-year return of service contract, right? So the challenge isn't about keeping them, it's about letting them stay. So why should we all care as patients and Canadians? This is not just about doctors. It's about all of us as people who are in Ontario, and I call us Ontarians, right? About 2.5 million Ontario people don't have a family physician. And reducing IMG participation in the first iteration means that we are going to get fewer residents trained later. And that will mean fewer doctors, longer wait times in the emergency room to see physicians, and more communities will be left without care. And this policy affects patients as well, not just paperwork. So it cuts across so many points. Now, to the policymakers in Ontario, I say this with so much respect. I respect policymakers, and I know that you are doing everything possible to make the lives of the people in Ontario easy and simple. We all share the same goal, okay? It's for a stronger and a more stable healthcare system. But please, my plea is this, as a fellow IMG myself, it's about time we consulted with, the Canadian Medical Association, the CFPC, the Ontario Medical Association, because what I know is that retention begins when people feel that they belong. And the internationally trained doctors who are serving in Ontario today in the emergency rooms, in the clinics, in the long-term care homes, they already belong in Ontario. And so it's time that we considered getting other people to feel that they belong in Ontario. And so now, with all this that I've said, I want to also give a message to my fellow international medical graduates. To every IMG who is watching this right now, I know that this feels very heavy because I interact with IMGs every single day. But I need you to hear me. The journey is not over. You can still apply, you can still match, and you can still serve Canada. So this is what I will need you to do next. And I'm going to give you 5 strategies, just 5. Number 1, if you want to get into Ontario, at least for the 2026 cycle, make sure that you are prepared for the second iteration as well. You are still eligible for the Ontario second iteration match. So make sure that you are prepared for it. Gather your letters, gather your references, gather your documents right now, and be ready for it before the window opens. Number 2, apply to other provinces as well. Consider provinces like Saskatchewan, Alberta, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, okay? You can still apply to these provinces for programs which are open to IMGs. So please do your best to apply to these provinces as well. Number 3, strengthen your profile. Use this year to grow, get some clinical internships, get some research, get some community projects. What I want you to do is to turn the frustration you feel into a fuel, which can get you going. And then number 4, this is very important to me. Please advocate, but while you advocate with dignity, okay? This is not a time for emotional sentiments and, using very bad language on the internet. Always remember that the internet never forgets. So while you are advocating, kindly make sure that you advocate with dignity. There are so many groups which are calling for a review of this particular position, like the Internationally Trained Physicians of Canada and other networks. Do your best to share your story. And while you do that, share that respectfully, because change will only come through collaboration, not confrontation, okay? And also, protect your mindset. That's the 5th point. Protect your mindset. What you have to understand is that this is not rejection per se, it is redirection. And every delay can still lead to a particular unique destination. So, why is there still hope? This is what gives me hope, because when this news came up, the various bodies are uniting to speak. They are speaking to various key stakeholders in the Ontario government. And so I'm hoping that there can be a review, because advocacy groups are mobilizing and conversations are happening. And policy, when met with compassion and data, can evolve. So even though it looks like a rule has been made, I believe that with further jaw join and further conversations, things can change. And I feel and I know that the system is listening, because this has caught the attention of major stakeholders so far as this particular game is concerned. So if this video gave you some clarity, I want you to share it, and I want you to comment below. A, if you are applying outside of Ontario, and B, if you are preparing for the second iteration, and C, if you are using this year to build your bridge and to build your CV and your experience. I'll personally reply with guidance as to what to do. My name is Dr. Bruni, and I'm the lead tutor at MedCognito, and I'll leave you with this. Always remember that policies may pause your process, but they can't pause your purpose. Always remember that you belong in medicine, you belong in Canada, you belong in Ontario, and definitely, the time is gonna come. So hang in there, hang in tight, continue preparing, put your mind right, and let's all keep advocating that there will be a change in this new policy. See you on the other side of success.